Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I am Nick Scheist, and you may remember me from the Scheist Podcast and Bad Movies We Love.
And I'm Seth Vargas of the Movie Friends Podcast.
And we decided to join forces, a team-up, if you will, because X-Men 97 was so good, we just couldn't help ourselves.
That's right. So join us as we discuss our personal history with the comics, the films, and the collectible trading cards of the X-Men universe.
And, of course, the catalyst for it all, X-Men 97. To me, my ex-friends. Yeah, it's the costumes that they wore in the Pride of the X-Men cartoon movie from like the late 80s, early 90s. And I was at my kindergarten when I first saw that. And I was like friendly enough with the teacher where I convinced her to let me borrow the VHS. So nice. I would take it home every night and watch it and bring it back. And wow. I did that a ton. And I was just like obsessed with that cartoon. And we get like Juggernaut and Colossus showdown in that one as well, which I want those characters in this show. And I think they'll be there eventually. We got a little bit of Juggernaut through Morph.
A touch, which was very, very cool. And especially to show the scale of Juggernaut was cool.
Yeah, so I want like those real characters there for just like selfish reasons, but it was great to see them throwing back to like that era of the X-Men. And I also love the return of like this sort of petty Magneto. Obviously, we commented on the moment where he calls Madeline the Brimstone clone, and he lectures Charles here, and he's like, go back to your Shi'ar bird queen. And I was like, Magneto, he throws shade in this, and he's a lot of fun. Even as like a really menacing villain, he still takes time to like have these very personal, judgmental digs at people. And it's like, it seems like it's a little beneath him, but I think it makes him, for lack of a better term, Magneto would hate it if I called it like more human, but it is. Right. It makes him more human.
Right.
And so he shows up to the X Mansion, and he has like, he's ripped a chunk of Earth from the ocean, I think. And he's just like, I'm bringing this to Charles' doorstep. And I forget exactly what he says to him, but Charles is like, well, yeah, the giant asteroid you have floating over my home begs to differ. Right. And Magneto's there to offer the X-Men a choice. He's like, we've seen Charles' dream fail over and over again. I told you what was going to happen the entire time. I even tried to buy into Charles's dream to like give it a shot. And here we are. Everybody, like Cyclops has acknowledged that Magneto's basically right at that point. The humans have acknowledged that Magneto's right. The only person that won't is Charles. And so I understand the motivations for Rogue and for Sunspot going with him. But are you getting on the asteroid with Magneto? If you're part of this world, if you're, I don't know what side, but if you're involved in all this and Magneto shows up to the X Mansion and you're a mutant, are you getting on the asteroid with him?
At that point, probably not. I mean, they do put a time limit on this now, which is 12 hours. If Magneto doesn't reverse what he's done, Earth will die, basically, because the gravitational whatever will be forever altered. And okay. So at that point, I'm like, maybe going with him to see if I could kill him. Yeah. Because like, what's the alternative? So we let Earth die, and then I just live with Magneto up in space, and there's 3 of us.
Yeah, it's just the 3 of us, and yeah. I mean,
so yeah, I mean, between Professor X and Charles, between Professor X and Magneto, I'm always going to choose Professor X because, you know, he's more powerful and he's probably going to end up winning in the end. So, but I do agree, like, you know, at a certain point, they have to reckon with what has happened. It's not the same old day and age, I think, is a theme that keeps coming back. And it's like, we have to evolve and we have to consider what to do. And Rogue saying like, no more X-Men should die. She's not wrong. She's not wrong at all. So yeah.
Well, I find that you mentioned evolution. It's a very interesting theme throughout the course of this show, in the sense that we're we're mostly well educated on what mutants are. We understand that there's an X gene, that they have evolved past the confines of, base humanity, and they are these very powerful beings. But then throughout the course of the show, it's this notion of like evolving your principles and not just like evolving physically. It's much more of a metaphorical evolution. And that becomes the sticking point, because I think all the mutants can agree that, like, yeah, we're more powerful than people and we shouldn't be getting persecuted and we shouldn't have to save them when they treat us like shit. And there's a lot of things that they can agree on, but they seem to always struggle on like this notion of coexistence with them. And Magneto, who's always been very mutant forward in a way that is, we'll call it more combative, if not just more stern, where he believes that mutants should be basically the ruling class, but is willing to just be left alone. Charles is strictly adhering to this idea that coexistence is the only way forward.
Right. I think that you don't have to change your morals and your character to change your tactics. You have to be creative, for sure. But this idea of like, this is the school, this is what we do. When Mr. Sinister is able to make a clone of Jean Grey and have a child, and like when evil ramps up kind of what it's doing, you don't have to be like, well, my hands are tied. Like this is the only path. At that point, you're just being belligerent. You're just being stubborn. And that's, I think, what Rogue is feeling. Rogue is like, why are we like, we have to do something. Magneto is doing something. It's not right, but he's doing something different. So I agree with her going. Roberto, I'm like, kid, like, you barely been in this, you know what I mean? Like,
they needed numbers on Magneto's side. You know, they needed some conflict.
Well, they needed a flying mutant to go with them so you could get that shot of the three of them looking down.
Yeah. Can you fly?
Beast was like, Beast was like, I want Uppy, like,
come here, get in this bubble, Beast. We'll get you in we'll get you in the electromagnetic bubble and we'll fly you up there. But I think, we could get a lot more out of Roberto's position, but I like that he had to deal with like what he dealt with from his family. And that's basically like, well, if I can't trust my family to not betray me, then I want to go with the person who is the most forward in terms of like mutant rights and mutant responsibility. And being here with the X-Men, it's like, you guys don't have your shit together, to be fair. Like, Cyclops is fighting with Charles right now. Like, since he's been back, they're not on the same page. So you can't trust the leader who was Magneto, who's now defected. The guy who would step into his shoes would be Scott. But now that Xavier is back, it would be Xavier. But Scott and Xavier are fighting. So I think from Roberto's perspective, he's like, this has all been messy since I got here. Magneto at least is in full control and fully confident in his decision making, where I don't feel that Charles lacks confidence. I feel that he is overconfident, actually, in that he believes that his way is the only way forward. And like you said, no evolving tactics on his part. And what it comes down to for him is like, all right, well, we have to like go back to war with our old enemy, who's my best friend that I love. And when push comes to shove, I will do what I need to do in the name of coexistence rather than in the name of mutant freedom. And if that means basically like mind raping this person that I love, so be it. That's what I'm going to do, because I'm Professor X and I'm a huge D-bag apparently. But we do get a great battle that ensues because of this. We get a couple of them actually, because all of a sudden Sinister's back fighting Jean Grey and he's like mind controlling Nathan and
Red Team and Gold Team, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah. And it's like, again, like we've introduced a time limit now, right?
Yep.
And so it's like, we need to hold off X, Y, and Z until this team can do A, B, C. And it's very cool. Morph turns into the Hulk, which is also very cool. if you're Morph, why aren't you the Hulk all the time? Like,
I feel like Morph is by far the most powerful of all of them. If maybe he can only morph for like a minute,
sure.
that would at least limit him, because I remember old Morph, it's like he can shapeshift, but he's not taking on people's powers. So he like Mystique can shapeshift, but like, okay, we already got one shapeshifter, so maybe he's going to absorb these people's powers. And then there's another character who I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but he basically does what Morph does now, in that if he's like near you, he can absorb your abilities while he's like in your general vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
So you tag team him with the right people and he's incredibly powerful, but that just doesn't seem to be the case with Morph. He'll just be whoever he wants whenever he needs to be. But it's like, why not just be Jean then? She's like an incredibly powerful telepath. Like whatever you need two of in a situation, do that. But, I want to ask you, because you're a married man, had you gone through all of the turmoil that Jean and Scott have gone through in this, when it comes down to like, well, we've got 12 hours to save the world and we got to split up into two teams. I'm sorry, honey, you're going to be on the other team. And be like, hell no. Like me and my wife are going to have to be in this together.
Right. Yeah. It's tough. We don't get to see the explanation for why certain people go to certain places. Obviously, you want to send Professor X to where Magneto is. Do you want to send the guy who's made of metal up to where Magneto is?
No, who's constantly lost against Magneto for the exact same reason.
Maybe send Morph and he can turn into Wolverine for 5 seconds. But that part was someone needed to stop and be like, wait. Don't you mean Wolverine over here? I'm like, oh, yeah, duh. But yeah, it's a great fight. We get two battles kind of going on simultaneously. Before we start the fight in earnest, we get the line between Storm and Jean Grey where she says, make them mind your weather and weather your mind. And I was like, that's a little corny, but I will accept it.
Go team, go. It's the locker room speech before they're about to go into the championship.
Yeah. We also get, and I love this detail and I can't really explain why, but when Jean and Sinister are fighting, she hurls bowling balls at him and he flies into the pins and it makes like the loudest bowling strike sound effect that you've ever heard. Like it sounds like you're playing Wii bowling with Mr. Sinister. It's funny. It's funny.
Well, the Folly guys had to have fun with that,
Right.
Let's make sure we really make this count. And, like Jean's losing for a while until she sort of like gets her confidence. And I was like, I never really understood Mr. Sinister's powers, quote unquote. Like in this, he like kind of like becomes liquid. He turns into a shadow.
Sure.
He also has like telekinetic abilities. So he could just be kind of like as bad of a villain as you need him to be situationally. And it makes for a great fight there at the end. But Mr. Sinister is also highly vulnerable to Cyclops and his brother, which is he's not involved in the show yet. But we saw earlier when Cyclops hit him in the midsection with the blast that he's like dissolving.
Yes.
And for some reason, he has a particular weakness to the Summers bloodline, which is probably why he's obsessed with them. But don't you think if you're going to be fighting Sinister, you want Cyclops there for that? And it would allow Cyclops to be with his wife, and then him and Nathan and Jean would fight the dude that has been like polluting their bloodline with all these different things. He's messing with their family. He was responsible for Madeline, which in turn is responsible for what happened to Nathan and all this. So you would think that Cyclops wants some measure of revenge there, but I mean, he is like team A. He's team leader. He's got to go fight Magneto kind of situation. So he's there. I mean, you sort of just like need him to be constantly forcing Magneto to play defense while everybody else is like working, because you just have this giant like laser hose blasting Magneto, and so he has to keep his shield up and be focused on Scott.
It was cool to see a little bit more Cyclops versus Magneto, and like Cyclops unleashed a little, because so many times you're like, well, how would a fight between these two characters work? And it's like, well, that's kind of how it would work. For me personally, again, if we're divvying up teams, might be better to send Jean Grey into space, who has had great success in space before and doesn't need for to physically remove the helmet because she has telekinetic powers. And so maybe you just send Charles and Jean Grey into space. That seems like it'd be enough to take down, Rogue, Magneto, and Roberto. But
Yeah,
what
just
do I know?
can't let Rogue get your hands on anybody. But I think also, well, I don't think it's the point. I think it does show that when there's a lack of leadership, weird decisions get made. Like
Yeah.
if Charles was in charge and they actually strategized for this as the team that they used to be, they would have developed better teams to go after these particular situations. But they're in a panic. There's 12 hours and they're like, all right, well, we're just going to basically like split it down the middle. Like, did you draw like an odd or even? Evens over here, odds over there. Good luck. And I mean, it ends up working in the sense that they get the helmet off and Charles mind rapes Magneto, but is unable to successfully finish because Cyclops, again, is like, oh, Jean's in trouble. So I got to buy her more time. And in that window of opportunity, Magneto comes to, gets the helmet, begins to crush Charles' skull with it. So it's like a little bit of a lover's quarrel. And then finally, Wolverine, after all this time, gets within striking distance of Magneto, impales him, which you think would be fatal. But Magneto took that like a champ, not only just like kept standing, but then turn around and unleash like the full potential of his powers to just strip Wolverine's skeleton of its adamantium, which is gnarly as Charles is laying there, having his head crushed, begging him not to do this. And like at that point, like this guy just stabbed me through the back. You really want me to show him mercy here for some odd reason?
Right. Is it, does he stab him with both hands?
I only saw the one because it's like you turn around and you see like the 3 punctures like around his rib cage. So that's vital organs somewhere in there.
These are adamantium claws. They are not little needles. They're wide.
Yeah, they're like steak knives
through. Right, like if you make a hole with these, I think that there would be a hole. Like Magneto doesn't have 3 stab wounds, He has 3 holes in himself now.
Yeah.
And to your point, fine. Okay, so he does this thing. As his dying act.
Yes.
He is dead within 20 minutes. Like there's just no way. But hey, it's superhero logic.
Yeah, he either got him in the lung or the intestines or the liver, somewhere along that right side. There's something fatal in there because Wolverine has been killing people for like 200 years. You think he doesn't know where to stab somebody to like end them?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then, we get that great like final shot, which everyone always wants to see, Wolverine's exoskeleton get ripped from his body. And that's it.
It's a great shot, and it mirrors the panel in the comics where that happens too. And it's like it's pretty close. So they were authentic with that. And yeah. So you leave us in this moment where we don't know if Magneto's going to die. You assume that Wolverine's not going to die, but he's in excruciating pain. And we know that there's another episode left, and that this confrontation is not over. There's a lot on deck in the next episode that we record, man. Because we've got episode 10, we've got the finale, we've got the wrap up, we've got the future to look to.
Sure.
Good stuff coming up
to look to.
Perhaps a little bit of the past as well. If you haven't watched this and you're sort of watching along throughout this, I hope we didn't ruin it for you, but we've given it some breathing room. But yeah, I will save that question that I have for you for next time. And thanks for making time for this today, and I look forward to the next one.
Yeah. Hey, I'm ready. Very exciting.
Well, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll worry about scheduling later, and wish Jean a happy birthday for me.
Hey, awesome. Very cool.
All right, cool.
Peace out.
Thank you for checking out the show and becoming an X-Friend. Hopefully, you'll join us on our journey through X-Men 97 and beyond. X-Friends is a Movie Friends and Bad Movies We Love co-production and part of the Scheist Podcast Network, hosted by Seth Vargas and Nick Scheist. You can find our contact info and socials in the show notes, and you can email the show directly at xfriends@theshice.com. That's the letter X, friends@theshice.com. So until next time, let us do what we do. Believe not in a dream or our gifts, but in each other.